in the live session or watching the recording, I want to welcome you to How to Attract and Sustain Your Audience's Attention with our friend Dr. Carmen Simon here. She is a cognitive neuroscientist and the founder of Enhancive, and she'll tell you more about that as we go along today. So we'll get to that shortly. I do want to tell you about some other things we have coming up. Again, I'm Gary Ben Antwerp, and I run Training Magazine Network for the last 16 years or so, and also the webinar program. So if I can help you, please let me know. Send me a chat, and I'll be happy to do that. We have some other great webinars coming up, and Mike Parkinson is going to be here also tomorrow. So if you're familiar with Mike, you should come to that. If you are not, you're not having enough fun. So you need to come to Mike's session tomorrow. Coincidentally, Carmen and Mike are going to do a session together on December 5th, and we're just trying to settle down some of the details so we can tell you about it. Right now, we can't tell you about it, but if you're a fan of Mike and you're a fan of Carmen, well, then mark December 5th on your calendar and watch for my emails that you know I'm going to send you. Also, tomorrow we have Kendra Lee. These are not typos. Everybody's tomorrow. Kendra Lee's going to be here with harnessing AI's power to create effective prospecting emails. And you're wondering, why do I need that? Well, if you train salespeople, then this is for you. If you're an ID for sales related programs, then this is for you. And the rest of you can relax and instead come to Jeff Howard's session on how AI voice is changing L&D. Jeff is going to do this tomorrow. He is the marketing manager for WellSaid, and WellSaid is the company that does those wonderful text to speech programs where you have much more control over the inflection and pronunciation and so forth of the text transcripts in WellSaid than you do in almost any other program. So I hope you can join us for any of those. Hey, Kathleen from Campbell. That's how I became an office Mac store manager, is going down to Campbell for an interview one day. All right. So Carmen is here today, and Carmen will be back on November 5th with the neuroscience of memorable content, and December 3rd with whiteboard or slides, which is better for virtual presentations. So I'll put this slide back up at the end, and you'll be able to click it. You can click it now if you want, and then register at the end of the webinar, whatever you want to do today. And again, December 5th, we don't have that on there. Carmen and Mike Parkinson will be here as well. Now, all of our webinars, this is relatively new, all of our webinars will qualify you for a recertification point or certification point if you collect those from ATD. So if you need to know about that and how to work that, you can ask me at the end of the session. I can show you how to create your certificate that you send into ATD to get credit. One more thing here before we get started. Josh Cavalier, many of you know, as sort of a guru about Chat GPT ever since we started going down that rabbit hole. And he is doing a training live and online certificate course. If you'd like to earn a certificate in Chat GPT for L&D, well, then you can join Josh's class. It starts on October 11th. You attend it online, and at the end, you have a certificate attesting to your skills. And one more thing, I'm sorry. Today, we want to thank Allego for sponsoring all of these sessions of Carmen's. That makes them possible. And so we really appreciate Allego, who is a recognized leader in training and development. And we'll tell you more about Allego as we get to the end of the session today. Right now, we want to get on with Carmen. And so, how to attract and sustain your audience's attention. I want to welcome back to Training Magazine Network, Dr. Carmen Simon. Carmen, welcome back.
Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. It is exciting to talk about attention because we all want it, we crave it, we hope to get it from our internal teams, from our customers, from our friends and family. I'd like to talk about attention because while everyone else is talking about it, I feel like it's one of the most misunderstood processes when it comes to what the brain does and how it acts on things that it sees, and most often it does not see. Attention is exciting to talk about and very difficult to get and to understand. For instance, do I have your attention right now? I don't know. Let's see. As you're looking at the screen, you might consider which one is the odd one out. And I'm sure that your eyes, just as I clicked, went directly to a specific element. And if that's the case, and obviously you can use the chat box if you didn't see that brief animation, but I see that Mike and Cynthia and Kristen are right on it. And that's indeed the correct answer. And thank you for your attention. It's fun to see the results of your efforts when people do indeed pay attention, and that's why I want to address this process today from the angle of practical guidelines and also from the angle of cognitive neuroscience, which is my background. As we study attention from a neuroscience perspective, and I'll define what that is in a moment, let's first define attention. And let's start with this notion that you're seeing here on the screen. If we look at attention as focusing and processing information from your surroundings, then we can look at different types of attention, because I'm recognizing that. Uh, Let me just go back here. Gary, somehow these slides are having a mind of their own, and they're advanced.
Always exciting. It'll sure make you look at the slides, won't it?
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. Uh, if we look at attention, let me see. I don't know what's going on here, but you can approach it from various angles, and I want to suggest a few angles first, and then also I want to suggest a framework that you'll find highly practical, and you'll be able to handle this and use it to your own work as early as this afternoon. I'm going to pause this for a moment. So I think that, Gary, if you don't mind, I'm going to switch to the previous file just because this is advancing automatically without me clicking on anything. And
You know, Carmen,
yes.
Carmen, we can do one other thing. We can show it from your desktop if you'd like to share. We went over all this, folks, right before the webinar. It was working fine then, but we might have to make a switch here in the middle. We can share your desktop and show them that way if that's easier for you.
Yeah,
And work with
let's
it.
maybe
Let's do that.
we do that. I'm going to stop
Okay.
sharing that one, and
I'm just gonna make
I'll
a
switch
change here.
to my screen.
Go up
And
there. Yep, do that.
here it goes. So we are handling this.
And Jennifer was asking, is there a handout? And I don't think we do have a handout because there's so much animation. It'd be awfully, you'd have a deck about a million slides long. Am I
Yes,
right?
exactly. But it sounds like, Gary, can you see my screen? So I think we
Yes,
can.
we sure
Oh,
can.
okay,
It's
perfect.
working great, Carmen.
Yeah, hey, there you go. So that gets our attention when some things go right and when some things go wrong, which is fine. But here's something you'll find useful when it comes to attention. And if we can consider this definition here that you see on my screen, then from that angle, we can consider that there are multiple attention types. For example, you can focus on very specific elements at the detriment of others. Like, do you ever go to a restaurant and you put your phone away just so you can symbolize very politely to your other partner that now they are the only focus of your attention, and people consider that oh so ever satisfying. It's almost like in the good old days when people would put their guns away just to symbolize that this is safety. Now we're putting our phones away just to symbolize that this is selective focus, and that's a compliment. Now, of course, from a brain science perspective and evolutionary perspective, we cannot help it. We have to take in the entire environment. And what we sacrifice with divided attention is a bit of detail. So, for instance, it wouldn't have served us way back when to only pay attention to one bush with perhaps one tiger hiding behind it. You had to take in the entire environment so we can see where some other threats may be hiding. Divided attention does have some advantages from an evolutionary perspective, but of course, you can, for those of you who have talked on the phone and vacuumed at the same time, you can handle a few things without missing out too much. At some point, some details will get missed. Also, we know that attention doesn't always happen to a physical location. Attention also goes across time. I'm sure we have met before, and you know my view on this. It's a myth that we have a limited attention span, which is what this attention type would be referring to. You hear that statement often. People these days have short attention spans. From a brain science perspective, that is not true. The brain is capable of paying attention for a prolonged amount of time should the stimulus be interesting enough and important enough. And sometimes it is neither. Ideally, in light of our session together, yours will be both. And then, of course, we have to be humble enough to recognize that when our audiences come to our sessions, and I noticed your job profiles that you posted in the chat box early, And you mentioned that you work in training or you work in content development. When people view your materials or come and listen to you, they also have some other things going on in the background. So in the back of the brain, not necessarily literally, but always there present are some things that have not been accomplished. People come to you with already some goals that have not been attained yet. There are some things that they haven't finished. There's an email to send right after the session is over. Those things are constantly there. And yes, people may pay attention to a physical location. Yes, people may pay attention across time, but sometimes they compete against these things that are always active in people's brains. So it's no wonder that often we miss so much. Of course, what you're seeing on the screen here is definitely not an exhaustive list in terms of how we can look at attention and how we can measure what happens in the brain and body when people are attentive, which is why for the rest of the session, I want to provide to us a framework through which you can measure attention a little bit better and you can implement it in a practical way. And this framework comes from two dimensions that you can consider. One is, where is the brain looking? Let me go back to here. Where is the brain looking when it pays attention? Because usually you can look externally, and this is what we're used to, but just know that it is possible to look inward. You don't always have to focus on something in the environment. You can also focus on something that's within. So where is the brain looking? Because you look with your brain. The eyes are just small pieces of brain that are protruding through the skull. I know that's a gory image, but that's how we're paying attention to the external environment. But it's possible to reflect. And also you can ask the question, who is initiating the act of looking? Sometimes the environment prompts you to look, or you as a trainer are the person who is forcing somebody else to look. And when you do, more power to you. But sometimes people can activate the act of looking on their own. So you see now at the intersection of these two variables, where you're looking and who's initiating the looking,